Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. Boy, do we have a special episode for you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you follow us on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and subscribe on your favorite podcast apps. Also, make sure that you're following us on Twitter at attractions_GRP. Now, our special guest tonight is one of the biggest guests we could ever possibly have. He's a multi-time author. Including books like Time Management Magic for a Life at Disney, Career Magic, the 3 E's for a successful career, and Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney. Ladies and gentlemen, the retired VP of Operations for Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, Mr. Lee Cockerell. How you doing, Lee?
Hey there. Thanks. Yeah, I got introduced again. I'm back at Disney.
So Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you are retired, but you're very, very busy. Talk about the different projects you're involved with, but, maybe even go back to, the beginning, how you got started and all this.
Yeah, well, it was kind of, I guess I got lucky. I grew up on a little farm in Oklahoma, and I tell everybody we were poor as could be, although when you're a kid, you don't know you're poor if you get dinner. So we didn't even have indoor plumbing. My mother ended up getting married 5 times, so she was kind of busy. My grandmother happened to be next door, so that's why I'm not totally crazy. And I lived on this farm until we moved into the city. And then my husband number 4, I've been adopted twice. I got my name Cockerell when I was 16. My husband number 4, he was rich, which was good. So I got to go to college, and I went to Oklahoma State University for 2 years and promptly flunked out because I didn't go to class, but I had a lot of fun. And then I went in the Army, because in those days you either went in the Army or you stayed in college. And so I went in, and when I got out of the Army, I went to Washington, D.C., got a job at the Hilton Hotel. It was the first time I'd ever been out of Oklahoma, and I was 20 years old. Never been in a hotel, never been anywhere. So got a job as a banquet waiter, and I just tried to be the best little banquet waiter they ever had. I said, since I didn't have a college degree, I made sure I had a good attitude, and I was very reliable. I'm very organized. And actually, I served Conrad Hilton at the opening reception a glass of champagne, and the old man who started the company. And stayed with Hilton 8 years, worked in New York, Washington, got married. My wife was in the Washington Hilton. She was working. We had a baby, moved to Chicago, at the Conrad Hilton, then to the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and then to the Los Angeles Hilton. And then from there, I left and joined Mariott and spent 17 years with them. I eventually became the vice president of food and beverage planning for the company worldwide. And then I wanted to be a general manager, and I got a job as a general manager. And then I got recruited by Disney and to go to France and open Disneyland Paris. And my wife was so excited to go to Paris, she made me take the job. We went to Paris, and it was the best decision I ever made. I stayed there 3 years. Then I was asked to come to Orlando. I'd never worked in Orlando before. I'd gone straight to France when I joined Disney. And I came back as the head of the senior vice president of the head of the resorts, the hotels. And then a couple of years later, I got promoted to be in charge of all operations at Walt Disney World, which I'm still surprised today. I guess I had them fooled. They thought I knew what I was doing. And I did that for 10 years. And then I retired and started my own little company where I do keynote speeches. I do seminars, really all over the world. I think I've been to 48 countries now. The message, everybody's got the same problems. You need to hire good people, train them, and keep them. So it doesn't matter what country you're in. And his name, of course, resonates well. If it was just Cockerell, I probably wouldn't have any speaking engagement. Since I have Disney on there, they think I know what I'm doing. So, and it's great. It's fun. I love doing it. People are really anxious to learn today about how to reduce turnover, keep people committed, be different than everybody else in their customer service of their organization. And so I'm real busy right now doing that. And my wife, Priscilla, and I have been married 54 years. She goes with me on trips if she likes where I'm going. But Yeah, we have 3 grandkids. I have a son who's 53. He's was with Disney 25 years. He ran the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, the studio, and All-Star Resort, and some others. And he's out doing what I'm doing now. He's in Australia doing seminars right now with his wife. So we the whole family worked for Disney one time for 6 days in Paris. We all had a name tag during the opening. My wife helped out, so they gave her a name tag. So that was that's kind of my life. And we live in Orlando, and I just like to talk about leadership, management, customer service, culture, because it's new young generation. If you don't treat them right and get them involved, they quit. They don't stay with. They're not like me. They won't take a beating for 50 years. They just get up and move to another company. And so companies that haven't figured that out yet are having a lot of problems. You can't have any bosses anymore. You got to be a teacher. You got to be teaching people. Maybe they got to be learning, or they'll walk out. They'll work on to the next company. And I don't care what industry, not just theme parks and hotels and restaurants. Every industry is suffering. And so it's that tipping point. The world has changed. I wrote a paper. I said, the world has changed. Have you? So,
right.
If you haven't, you're going to have a pretty miserable life running your company. Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard when these big crises happen and everything gets flipped around.
Yeah.
So and we've been through it in the last 3 years. Everybody has.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I've noticed, like going through your books as well as your podcast, and we will link your podcast in the description in this, is you talk about customer service, you talk about a bunch of the different facets of running a business, but a lot of it just kind of like pours back to leadership and how you lead. What do you think is the difference between somebody that's a leader and somebody that's a great leader?
Well, I think, I always start out, I think a lot of people kind of think management and leadership are the same. And I try to define that. I even did work for the military and defined it for them because they kind of had it mixed up too. People think leadership and management's the same thing sometimes. And, management's about just getting things done. You get a list, you check it off. It's keeping things under control, safety, budget, on time. You put them in your planner, you check them off, and you get them done. That's management's about doing. And I tell people leadership's about being ethical, being honest, being trusted, being there, being able to have hard discussions, being able to make hard decisions. Just those. Who are you? Not what you do for a living. And I think the number one thing, the great leaders are trusted. That's it. They're out and about. They're available. The cast members or employees don't consider them the boss. I always told people, I don't want to be the boss. I don't want people reporting to me. I want them working with me because I'll get more done if they work. And I said, when I sat at the table with 6 of my direct reports, I do have one more vote than they do, but I hardly ever use it because when you hire really great people, we make the right decisions when we sit at the table. And I never want anybody intimidated and not telling me. That's why I had success. I'm not too smart, but I kept employed because I listen to people who know what they're doing. And today you can't be an expert in everything. It's too complex. I mean, God, you just think about the technology and engineering and retail and security and transportation. No, you got to have the experts. And I tell people today, young people, become an expert in something, you'll always be secure. Become an expert. Be the go-to person that everybody knows you're the go-to person, and you keep up. You just keep getting better as things change. And it's not hard to be successful. Just be nice to people, train them, treat them right. I always try to treat them right. You won't have any problems. And get rid of the people you make mistakes. When you hire the wrong person, you got to deal with that. And that's leadership, dealing with hard things. That's where most people get in trouble. They won't deal with the hard things. They let them go. And then, you let your health go, you let your have the wrong people and you don't deal with them. Eventually it bites you. And because we don't like to do hard things because they're hard. And that's the one thing I tell people: the most important thing is discipline. The discipline to do the right thing, and leaders do the right thing. And usually the right thing is hard, and hard things are usually the right thing. It's just kind of a simple concept to remember. If you don't want to do it, it's probably hard.
That's true.
Exactly. With that, Lee, when you're talking about leadership and that, sometimes, because somebody has a title or whatever, that doesn't make them a good leader. And then there's other people that they don't have the titles. But you don't need that. I don't think you need that to be a leader. You just need to be able to inspire and, motivate people. And I think that sometimes, as you move down the line, and that's some of the best leaders I've ever been around, didn't have any of those kind of titles, but they had that ability to lead people and just inspire you to be the best you could do, be every day.
Yeah, they trusted him. Bob Chapek found out. Title doesn't keep you employed. Your behavior does, and your leadership, and being trusted, and being good at what you do, but also being good. You can be an expert in something and be a jerk, and when you're that, your people help you fail. It's ridiculous. That's why I say the older generation has got to get over this. I'm the boss, and you do what I say. Because the young people say, "Oh, really? Goodbye," and they can get a new job every morning. It's not like it's hard to get a job right now. So, I send this message out loud and clear to people. You better get, unless your team is sure you're committed to them, they'll never be committed to you. It's not like us in the old days, because our bosses came out of World War II. So we got ordered around all the time and did what we were told. And today, not so. These kids are smart. They've been around. They've been around the world. They've been to great restaurants. They know what's going on, and they're not going to put up with that nonsense anymore. So, I hope people can learn quick, because when you don't learn quick, you usually get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
If you're going to go into a sword fight, you better learn how to sword fight.
Right. No. So in a recent podcast of yours, you were talking about taking risks. And one of the things that kind of like resonated with me is you were talking about like jumping out of airplanes, and you're like, well, I wouldn't do that with just anybody, which talk about the best possible allegory for that. But will you talk about the mindset behind taking risks and not ultimately in 20 or 30 years regretting that you didn't apply for that position in a different city, or take on that leadership role that you weren't sure if you would be successful at? I know that a lot of this resonates with your message. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, people think about self-interest, and I tell people, don't until you decide what you really love to do and the industry you like to be in, don't get married, don't have a house, and don't have children, because they tie you down. You get stuck, and then you get insecure. And my wife and I moved 11 times in my career with Hilton, Mariott, and Disney. We moved 11. She moved 12 with her dad, who was in the Navy. So we don't care where we go. And I think that was the key. First, I got out of that small town environment. I went to Washington, D.C. Boy, that opened my eyes like, whoa. I said, I have friends named Mohammed now, and Ricardo, and Maria. You don't have those in Oklahoma. And it opened my eyes. And I always talk about exposure is so important. And that's, we got to really encourage kids, when you graduate from college, get out of the village. Go to the big city, because your mom wants you to stay in the village, and you will be there, and one day you'll be sorry you didn't, because you'll have that little job. You could have had more, you could have known more, you could have traveled, but it's an insecurity. Really, it's insecurity is why we don't take risks, and I'm not taking crazy risks. It's calculated risk, and knowing, so what if it doesn't work out? Well, I always knew I can always, in the hotel and hospital business, I'd always get a job doing something. I was a good waiter, so I could always go make some money.
Right.
So I took why I'm wired that way, because I always thought about what's the worst thing can happen. Doesn't work out, big deal. And I think we had a security blanket around us, family, that would have supported us if things went south. So you think it through, and you never know how great it can be if you don't go. And I mean, and somebody said, the danger of people end up not having a great life is because they settle for an okay life. It's okay. We pay the bills, and half Americans don't even have a passport. They've never been anywhere, and even a lot of them from where don't want to go to the big city. It's too dangerous. So it's just today, though, kids are getting exposed earlier. So I think we're going to see a lot more. They know what's going on. They're on the internet, and you can see it. And they're traveling and taking school trips and international trips, and their friends are from every race and sexual orientation and religion. And so a lot of the kids, no matter what, I think those days are over of nobody knowing what's going on. It's just maybe my generation. As soon as we're gone, it'll be better.
Lee, I had that same kind of situation where I was in professional sports, working in hockey. I'd done it for 18 years, and then an opportunity to get in the theme park industry came about. And I looked at it as, the worst thing that can happen is I go back and work in hockey again if it didn't work out that way. But, here it is 16 years later, and I'm still in that industry. But a question for you, though. I mean, the hospitality industry with the hotels and the theme park industry, you want the employees, you want the customers, the guests to all feel, special, feel important. Which of the two do you think is more important? Is it to make the guests feel special or the employees?
Well, I think the guests are never going to feel special if the employees don't. I want everybody to wake up in the morning excited to come to work because they feel like they're respected and included and involved and listened to, and that they love taking care of the guests. I don't want them having to take care of the guests. Bill his book was The Spirit to Serve. To serve people in this business, you got to have it's got to be inside you, because this is a hard business, man. This is like customers want it, they want it now, and so unless you really like to serve, you shouldn't be in this business, because you got to bite your lip, you got to take a lot of grief, you got to take a lot of anger sometimes, and then there's alcohol, and then the guests really get out of control, and all kinds of things happen. So you need to be wired to serve, and that's the kind of people we look for at Disney, that they can take the heat, they can create magic all day long, even when the family's not happy. And so it's picking the right people. Some people can't handle that. And there's a million guests coming at you. And so we are very careful who we hire, because if we hire the wrong person, it's not going to be good for them either. They're going to hate it. They're not going to like it. They're going to be in a bad mood. They're going to say something to a guest that they shouldn't. And I had to bite my tongue many times. I wanted to slap them, but no, be nice. That's what we do. We're putting on a show, and our show is that you're having a great experience. And even the managers know they have to stay in role. They have to control their emotions. They have to control their attitude. Be careful what they say and do. So it's and I think that's important in any job, by the way. But I think when I joined Disney and Marriott, they did it better than anybody I knew, because people liked being there. I've had other, some companies you don't like being there, but you have stress and you're not happy, but you stay. And I think most people stay at Disney and stay at Marriott because they want to, because they feel good about how they're treated, and how that they have opportunity, and they're going to get training, and they're going to get development, and they'll have a better life. And when you can create that, people don't leave. So that's why I always talk how important the environment is. It's got to be a place where you want to come into work, not have to come. And that's a big difference. And we've all been there. We've all been there, and we've all had those jobs where we just wish it was Friday on Monday morning. And I didn't never, on balance, I pretty much was happy at Disney the whole time. I wasn't happy during 9/11 or the hurricanes or recessions or having to lay people off. But on balance, over all those years, I felt respected, included. I didn't feel like somebody was trying to intimidate me, my boss. People were treated very professionally, which was makes Monday better. Monday morning.
All right. So Lee, in another recent podcast, you mentioned that it's not necessary, and I'm paraphrasing here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not necessarily a leader's job to motivate. It's the leader's job to hire motivated people, and then it's the leader's job to inspire those motivated people. Can you break down a little bit more the definition of what you think a motivated candidate would be, and a little bit more on a leader's job to inspire that motivated candidate?
I mean, we're looking for those people that motivate themselves. I started out as a banquet waiter. Motivate me. I did a fabulous job. I was on time every day. I did a good job. No matter how much I made over the years, whether I was making a little bit or a lot or a big job or a big title, you want people who are wired to serve and wired, and not everybody is. A lot of people, we have hangups. Our brain has got the bad information in it from how we were treated, bullied, all the kinds of things, and can't control your emotions. And we need people with empathy and discipline to do, because our people are pretty much out by themselves. 80,000 people working. The managers don't know what's going on. We have to rely on them wanting to do a great job. And so we are very selective about looking for those people. We even do a profile on people. They have to answer 136 questions before they can fill out an application. We want to know if they're disciplined. We want to know if they have that spirit to serve, how they would handle situations. And we pick. I think that's the key of. If you don't love what you're doing, you ought to be. And I tell young people that today. If you don't love what you're doing, don't do it. I mean, go in the first 10 years of your out of college, go do something else, because you'll be miserable if you have to go to a job every day that you hate. And I think that's why we're seeing young people today. They're just, okay, I don't like this, I'm not going to do it. And they marched on. And I have a grandson who's a biomedical engineer. He's changed jobs once already because he didn't like the environment and the culture and how he was treated. I have a granddaughter who's working on moving to Europe with her boyfriend because they just want to do their thing, and she likes her job. It's okay, but she's not learning anything anymore. She's bored. And then I have a grandson that goes to school in France. These kids today, I didn't even know where France was when I was his age. I didn't even know there anything. I was in the Army, and I'd never heard of Vietnam. And I was in 1964 during Vietnam. That's how I didn't read the paper. I didn't have a phone, to look up things, to know things. I didn't have a steady flow of information. And so today it's totally different. So it's got to hire the right people that are wired to serve. My grandson told me when he was 10, when you serve, you're always the giving one. That's hard to give, because guests can be really unreasonable, can really be tough on you and push you and try to manipulate you and all kinds of things. And you just got to, just stay enrolled and take care of them and make sure they come back, because Mickey likes all credit cards. We want you back. We're nice to you. You'll give us your credit card. If you're not, Mickey likes all religions. He likes everybody. And we even like people that have a credit card better. So, and the magic is getting them to pull it out and give it to us often. So when you treat people better, they spend more money. Mm-hmm. When they trust you, they spend more money. When you're nice to people, they spend more money. I go to the same coffee place every day for 3 or 4 hours and work and drink coffee, and they treat me like I'm part of the family. And I go back there every day. I spend I got to be the dumbest guy in the world what I spend for coffee a year in this place. I mean, the big latte is $5 or $6. I'm going like, what? But I go there because they treat me like a regular. When I'm out of town, they send me an email. Where are you? We haven't seen you.
Yeah, that's funny.
Where else? I'm famous there. Yeah.
Yeah. Lee, let's talk about, when you're in those high profile positions with large companies, it's going to be very demanding on your time and that. What are your thoughts on that work-life balance? How did you maintain that throughout your career with
Yeah, I
Disney?
think the big problem people have is they're not very organized because we don't teach a good way to manage, keep your life under control, manage your time, manage your schedule, and set the priorities. And I took a time management course when I was about 32 or 3, and it changed my life. It taught me, I was already pretty disciplined, but I didn't know how to keep it all balanced. As all of a sudden you get married and then you have a kid and then you got to go to a soccer game. Your mother-in-law's coming in Saturday and your boss wants that report tomorrow. And I was suffering from real anxiety. I mean, I was working Saturday, Sunday, and taking work home. And I took that course. It really changed my direction to learn how to organize myself, how to delegate, how to trust people, how to make sure you have clarity when you give something to somebody, and give people authority to make decisions. People asked me what I did at Disney, and I said nothing. I just had great people. All I did is make sure it got done. I didn't do nothing. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a security expert. I'm not a transportation expert. I'm a food expert, but I had a guy better than me in food, so I left him alone too. And I think that's the key. You got to get organized. If I had to do one thing for kids and young people or anybody, is to get them to learn a good, solid time management system of how to plan every day, how to plan what you're going to do today, tomorrow, this week, next week. You ought to be doing things already now for Christmas, or you probably should have done them 2 months ago. Making reservations, getting your airline tickets 2 months in advance so you save a lot of money. Just getting ahead of the anticipation, getting ahead of the game, so that you don't run into obstacles. And if you change the oil on your car, it keeps running. So you got to do the right things at the right time. I called today to get my air conditioner checked every 6 months because in Florida you can die if your air conditioner quits working. So the things that are important to stay on top of your health. The way you stay on top of your health, you schedule your workout, you schedule your doctor's appointments, you schedule the priorities in your life. And that I would say is one of the most important things, because if you can't get things done, it really doesn't matter how much you know. Because if you have a boss, I think being reliable and with a good attitude, it'll carry you way further than anything else. Because, by the way, your boss doesn't know what they're doing either. So this is I came to the conclusion nobody knows what they're doing, so I'm in good company. So you do your best. That's what my theory is. You do your best every day. Forgive yourself. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You get up every morning.
Lee, it's funny
Screwed up
because one of the lessons that I was taught by somebody when I came, like, say, of age, when I was about 22, 23 years old, is one of the things you're going to learn quickly in the professional environment is you grew up thinking that everybody that had these really big jobs knew what they were doing, but they're just putting on a show anyway.
It's true. It's true. It's a big fake.
Oh, I've absolutely learned that. Don, have you seen that too? I mean, like, in general, it's
Oh, yeah.
not that like everybody on earth is incompetent, but I mean, most people are just making it up as they go anyway because they do it on a feeling. Anyway, Lee, so let's talk about employee recognition. What are your thoughts on, like, daily or even like further out than that, recognition of employee, like, in their contributions to the company? And what do you think are the best ways to recognize employees that have performed rather well?
I think you've got to think about it so deeply that it's what you do naturally. You don't even think about it. You see somebody, you know in your mind they do a great job. You just stop and say, "Hey, man, haven't seen you for a while. You're doing a great job. I hear great things about you. I hope you stay with us." You move on, and next time you do something else. And it's every day we all have a million opportunities to recognize somebody for doing something well, or a good attitude, or how they handled the customer, and just be observant of that. And it's better than giving them a trophy when the boss stops and says, "Hey, I'm glad you're on our team." That's enough right there. They'll sleep better tonight. They will be more inspired. They'll give you more. And don't think so much about, every time I got big bonuses at Disney, I was never happy with them. I always wanted more. But when my boss called me and said, "Lee, I really am glad you're on my team. You're doing a great job," that was worth more than cash. that was because the cash, I guarantee you, I got a company car at Mariott and Disney. I wanted a bigger one. I mean, I was never happy. But personal recognition is like telling your wife you love her. That's the best strategy you can have in life if you want to stay married. It's not giving her you got to give her some stuff too. But not forgetting to frequently show appreciation and recognition and encouragement to people, and to get to know your people so well, when they need some encouragement or they need some recognition, because this is the fuel that drives human performance. I mean, this is the fuel. We all do it to kids. How often do we tell our kids how great they are when they're growing up? You did a good job, and that's what we do. And it's free. That's what I always talk about. It costs you nothing, and it gives you big results. People don't walk away from a place where they feel like they're appreciated, recognized, encouraged, have training, development. We care about them. This is for free. The CFO will like this. There's no investment except you paying attention. So I think it's vital. Maybe the most important thing you do when you really think about it. Think about tomorrow. Who could a stranger on the street, helping them out? I mean, it's just the little things that make people they can't believe it happened. Wow. They go home and tell their wife, my boss stopped me today and he told me I'm doing a good job and I'm going to have a good career here and a future here. I mean, can you imagine? That cost you like 10 seconds. And you probably got a lot out of it. And when you recognize people, and I'm not to manipulate them, to be genuine. Productivity, commitment, results go up. They go up. If you have a company full of people who feel appreciated and they're somebody and you're cared for, you make more money. I mean, this is just like bingo. That's the formula. You make more money. And less turnover. They give you 100% instead of 80%. It's just amazing. You have less sick days, less call outs. I mean, less mistakes. I mean, it's all the good things that happen when you're happy. When I tell my wife I love her, I have a happy day.
Ain't that right?
Yeah, Lee, I'm going to circle back to something you mentioned a couple minutes ago, and that's time management.
Yeah.
Why is it so important? But not just for leaders, but really for everyone. Why is time management such a big thing you should focus on?
Because you have a lot of responsibilities. I made sure my son and all my grandkids went through my time management seminar before they go off to college. Kids go to college, half of them flunk out freshman year because their mother's not there. That's why their sheets get washed twice a year. I mean, and it's just where you spend your time and who you spend your time with will be the major thing that creates the kind of life you have. So I would say, I'll give you this. When I was at Disney, I really focused on three things. Hiring the right people, everybody did, making sure we were training everybody well so they could really do a great job, and then making sure we had a culture where we treated them right, and sorting out managers who didn't do that, and that we had a place where people woke up and wanted to come to work. And when I retired, my wife said, well, you don't have to do that anymore, Lee. I'm going to give you 3 new priorities. Number 1, take care of yourself so you can take care of me. Third, take care of your business. So number 1, take care of yourself. Number 2, take care of your family because you're around. Number 3, take care of your business. And after that, yeah, you can play golf, but not until you get those 3 done. Or you can go help Kim Kardashian, or you can watch The Real Housewives. You can do whatever you want. But think about the most 3 important things and make them a routine. It needs to be like every day you take care of yourself. And then you have the energy and you're healthy and you can take care of your family when there's a crisis. And then you take care of your business. And it's a matter of where you spend your time. We can all do this. We don't have to go do stupid things. We don't have to watch TV for 4 hours. You can go exercise. You can go take your wife to lunch. You can take her to lunch before she asks you, because you get more points that way. You can write a little note to her and tell her how much you love her and stick it on the bathroom mirror. And I did one for my wife 10, 15 years ago. It's still there. Don't underestimate it's just human. We all want to matter. We all want to be somebody. And I don't care the person I told people the pot washer or the tray washer at Disney, that may be the most important guy in the company. I don't care if he's a serial killer. Go back there and thank him and tell him how much we appreciate him, because if we don't have trays, business stops. And, we don't think of those things. The people who rent wheelchairs, you know how important that is? We rent 1,200 wheelchairs a day. If that gets screwed up, man, a disabled person, you have a bad day. So there's no small job. Everything, may be small to you because you don't need a wheelchair, but to the lady who needs it and has to have it to enjoy her visit. And so I tell you, everybody, my first chapter of my book is, remember, everybody is important. And you'll find that out. When the mechanic works on your car, you don't even know if he did it right. You just hope he did. You hope you be nice to him, because he might screw it up for you. So you got to get this attitude that everybody's important. You treat everybody right. And who has the authority and the right to treat people badly anyway? Why would you? Today I tell managers, be the kind of manager you hope your kids have when they go in the workforce. Be the manager you hope your mother has when she goes to work, or your sister, or your children. Be that kind of leader. And that puts it in a different perspective.
Yeah, Lee, that's.
Would you like to work?
Absolutely, that's very interesting. And another point. Another point that you kind of reminded me of is like, when let's say you mentioned like somebody that rents out the wheelchairs and stuff. Like, not only is it kind of like, well, the person in the wheelchair could have a bad day, but when that person, that customer, and that family is speaking to that associate, whether it's like their first day or, they're the VP of operations, they're speaking on behalf of the company, whether you like it or not. So, I mean, understanding the weight of doing this in front of guests is very important, in my opinion. And
the way to remember that, by the way, is your people are your brand.
Oh, yeah.
Really. Why do you stop at a Mariott? Because the people. Why do the 99% of the compliments we get at Disney are about the people, not about the rides.
Absolutely.
The people. Because they're so shocked. It's so different than everywhere else you go. People. I mean, this is like the key. This is the golden nugget.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Marriott with that, because, you have experience with both Marriott and Hilton, correct?
Yeah.
But so recently, my girlfriend and I traveled to different parks and stuff like that. And, we were like, kind of like going cheap with hotels, and she's like a germaphobe and stuff, and always wanted to sanitize everything in the room before we went in, and was terrified of bed bugs and everything. But now that we're staying at, because I've got like the Marriott credit card and the Hilton credit card, so we're doing that. And she's like, oh, it's probably fine. It's a Hilton, because you trust that those people do things properly, absolutely.
It's in your brain. It's like Chick-fil-A. I don't care what interstate you're on, if you see a Chick-fil-A sign, you're pretty sure it's going to be great.
Yeah.
When you see a Marriott sign or a Hilton, that you're going to put, there's some hotels you say, I don't think so. That one looks a little shaky. My wife and I used to, when we were poor and starting out, we carried Lysol and paper towels.
That's exactly what we did until we started staying at Mariott and Hilton. Well, and it's funny because, you mentioned that as far as
pick up
right, but you mentioned the brand and stuff. It's like, because there's a hotel. I'm not going to name any names of hotels because I don't know what your relationship's like with them, but it's a national brand, and there's one like near Universal, and I've stayed at, and it was really nice. Like, it was on par with like maybe a lower end Hilton. But if there was one off the side of the road outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, there's no way I'd stay at that. But if it's a Hilton or Marriott, I know the quality I'm getting. I know the people I'm dealing with,
Right. I agree. That's pretty much, and we often choose brands. They have, companies have trouble getting the grocery stores to not buy the brand name, although they are now, because inflation has gotten so bad, people are looking for and brand is amazing. I need a car, but somebody says, I need a car, but I want a Mercedes. I need a car, but I want to, and a lot of it is, I mean, look at what we pay for running shoes, fashion statement. You could buy shoes at half that price, but the brand, it's in your face. And we make illogical decisions sometimes based on the brand. And that's why it's so important to have the brand have consistency and be trusted. And that when something does go wrong, they take care of it, they fix it. So you're happy no matter what. When you leave, you're happy. And that alone is worth, you got to wonder, how much is that worth? What is the value of a trusted brand name? I mean, Lexus. I mean, we pay an absurd amount of money to have a Lexus. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And but they got this reliability factor, safety. When you buy a car for your kids, it needs to be safe. You don't care what it costs for safety. And so I think about, and us as individuals, we are a brand. Do people trust us? Are we reliable? Do we do what we say we're going to do? Are we knowledgeable? Do we keep up with what's going on? Are we available when people call us? We all are a brand. I mean, because people are talking about us behind our back.
Right.
And they're either saying we're a jerk or we're a good person. So it's brand is huge. I mean, it's everything, and everybody's fighting for the brand.
Right.
The best. I want to be the hotel company. And Mariott and Hilton, frankly, are the two that are winning the game. Worldwide.
I agree.
They're both doing a great job.
So Lee, let's talk about decision making, particularly when it comes to transparency in decision making. Do you think that leaders, essentially, for the decisions they make, especially the ones that are facing the employees, it's important to have transparency? And where do you think that fits into like a general cultural aspect of any organization you'd work for?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my personal opinion on how I did it at Disney. When I'm going to make a decision about a big thing, I'm going to talk to people who are going to be affected. I'm not an idiot, that's why I didn't make many mistakes, because I talked to all the people who are this is going to affect. And if I talk to enough people, I'll have a sense of, okay, now I got it. I understand. They told me, you can do this, but I wouldn't do that. And when you have transparency and people trust you, they'll keep you out of trouble. And a lot of bosses go in, like I think Mr. Chapik did, and just start telling everybody what to do. And he didn't have the empathy part of the business. He was he had the discipline, push hard, but you got to do both. I said this, you got to balance empathy and discipline. And you got to be aware that every one of the people who works for you or works with you knows something you don't know. And they're not telling you unless they trust you. And in fact, if they don't like you, they'll get you fired. And they'll work against you. So I think transparency is everything. I went through depression and anxiety 10 years ago when my wife was sick for 2 years. I just told everybody. I just said, hey, I'm going through anxiety and suffering from depression. I'm seeing a psychiatrist. And it made it easier. It took the people who understood, I don't want to have coffee with you. I'm depressed right now. and so it just eased up everything in your life to be transparent. Just to tell people, here's how it is, I always tell people that when in doubt, just tell the truth. Your life will get a lot better. You might lose a few friends, but that's okay. You got to take care of you and your life. And you don't need a lot of friends. You just need a couple. I was telling somebody the other day, I don't want to make a lot of money. I just want to make enough.
Right.
So I don't have to kill people to make money. I just make enough. And just be aware of that let people. One of the most important things I put in my book was get to know your people well and let them get to know you. Who are you? Talk about how you were raised, the things that bother you, because that builds trust when people know, hey, Lee's just like us. He has problems too. He has problems at home. He has health problems. That's good. It's fine. Don't. Everybody already knows when you try to cover it up, then they don't trust you. When you lie and kind of spin everything, Uh, HR departments and marketing departments try to spin everything, and now that's why nobody trusts anybody in the marketplace. I don't believe any commercials. I'm going like, yeah, right. This take these pills and you'll feel 1,000 times better in 30 days. No, you won't. You know? So I mean, this is just you're so much more relaxed and healthier and feel better and sleep better when you're transparent. That's all. Just somebody asked me the other day, when you got a really serious problem with somebody, how do you deal with it? I said, you go meet with them and you stay with them until you might have to not come out for 5 hours till you guys get back on the same page, because you hoping it gets better. It's not going to get better until you go deal with it. Just deal with the problem. And nobody wants to deal with it because it's hard. When you got to fire somebody, nobody wants to do that. So you keep putting it off. My theory is schedule it, fire them, and then spend 2 or 3 hours telling them why, so they don't repeat it again. And by the time you do it, you've already talked to them a half a dozen times. They're not even surprised. But it's keeping you awake at night because things are not going well. I had a boss once. I didn't fire a guy who wasn't doing his job. When I was at Mariott, my boss called me in and said, Lee, if you don't deal with him, I'm going to deal with you. That was clear. I improved my ability to handle hard things that day because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have the experience to let somebody go, they'll lose their health insurance. I brought him with me. I mean, I felt all this guilt, but he wasn't doing the job, and that wasn't my fault. So leadership's hard. Being a parent and being a leader. Those are the two hardest jobs in the world because you get challenged all the time. Your kids misbehave, your kids lie, employees lie. So you got to have that ability to just go with it, get the facts, listen to everybody, get into it, ask a lot of questions, and then make the best decision you can. I mean, that's real life. And you're going to make mistakes. Even when you make the perfect decision, they're going to have 30% of the people unhappy with you because they didn't like it. And so you got to get over that because leadership is hard. It's about responsibility and being responsible. And if you're not responsible, you're irresponsible. So I don't want, and I said, you may not have as many friends. I got 5,000 Facebook friends, but I don't have any real friends, like 2 or 3. A real friend is when you call them up and say, we need to come and live with you for a couple of years till we straighten our life out. Or I need $50,000. Could you sign this loan for me? Your friends disappear very quick. So, even your family disappears. So,
Yeah, Lee, let's talk about culture. I've gone to Disney parks for, a number of years now, and I've always been, amazed at the buy-in, from the first person, your first point of contact to my last, just that buy-in that everyone has about, being a Disney cast member. How do you go about, finding the people that'll buy into the culture, building that culture, maintaining it?
yeah.
Um, just talk about that a little bit, because I think that's the one thing that I've always just been just super impressed with is just, you're not talking 15, 20, 30 people. You're talking thousands of
Yeah.
associates, cast members that are on Disney
Well,
property.
I think the way you do it is we have the profiling system, so we kind of know. But then I think when you sit down with a person, you got to be so 100% clear about your expectations for their attitude, for their performance, for being on time to work, for how they treat other people, around sexual harassment, about how they speak to women, I will tell you, clarity of communication is the biggest problem in life. When somebody says, you never told me that, well, that's your fault. Or I didn't know that, that's your fault. You got to be so, and I haven't, we had a list of 20, 25 things. And when we found something we hadn't told people, we added it on. We make sure, number one, let me talk to you about attendance. Number two, let me talk to you about how you treat other people in the workplace, how you treat foreigners, how you treat people of other religions, sexual, gay people. I mean, we went right down the line. And then it was kind of like your mother used to say, do you understand what I just told you? Do you? Because if you don't do these things, you won't be here. Clarity right there. And when you have clarity, you have less problems. Remember when was your mother ever clear with you? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Your mother said, do you understand? You understand? That's what we do. And by the way, I can tell everybody, if you want to be a good leader, just be like your mother, because mothers only care about safety and education, and that's your main job. And mothers are the best leaders in the world, and we all know that, because they get to the point. They don't care if you're happy all day. They care if you're safe. They care if you're successful. They'll kick your butt, and then they'll tell you they love you before you go to sleep. Empathy and this, and I'm telling you, mother, being a good leader, just if you had a good mother, you already know what to do. You already know. But then we get in corporate life and we forget those basic lessons. Be nice, be kind to people, teach people, train people, set a good example. I mean, as your mother said, don't use profanity. Don't spit on the street in front of people. I mean, I say, we try to make leadership and management too hard. It's not hard. Just respect people and do what your mother taught you, and you'll be fine. You already know. You just forgot. Because we're in this, we got to be great, and we got to get a better title, and I got to kill this guy so I can get his job. No, that's a miserable life. Look at all the famous people in the world. They're 99% of them are miserable. Look at Musk. You think he's not happy? Chapek's not happy. All the movie stars are drug overdosing and getting divorces and can't go out without a security guard. I tell people, don't get famous. You'll be miserable. Don't want to be famous. Just be a good leader. Help people, and you'll make enough money. You'll have a good enough life, and you'll with your. He said, if you want to make a difference in the world, let's start with your values. Get those right first, and then everything else will work out right. And these are things we've got to start to understand. It's like going to church. The preacher preaches a lot, but nobody does anything. They're only good Christians on Sunday morning. And if you don't learn these things and start practicing and taking care of yourself and having hard conversations and being a trusted leader that does what you say you're going to do, you end up with big problems down the road. You end up getting fired, getting late results, turnover, all the merit, somebody sexually harassing somebody, and then you get sued because, well, they said you never told me that. And so everything, I always tell people, every problem you have in your business fault. You either didn't tell them or you're not enforcing it. And you got to be clear. And that's, I think that's, every business could get better pretty quick if they would just start with some of these basics. First, how many people do you have in your company that shouldn't be there? Are you clear with every person you hire? Do you have standards like Mariott and Hilton standards? So, I can know pretty much 99.9%. I'm not going to get food poisoning there. And those are the kind of things that are the real things. Technology is the least of our problems. The problem is we think that technology is the answer to everything. It's the answer to many things, but we need to balance data and humans. We need to get that in balance, because right now, as I said to you the other day, QR codes are basically all it says is go do it yourself. We don't care about you. And by the day you go through all technology in the world, you're so frustrated, you're just like, what? So we got to get that right and implement it at the right time in the right way, and it's got to work, or you'll drive customers away. And I have a new bank. They bought the other bank. They were so screwed up. I mean, it's like I want to kill myself every time I go to make a deposit. I mean, it's like they're understaffed, and they got all these new rules, and oh my God. I don't love them. And I'm thinking about moving your bank is a pain in the butt too, but this is just aggravating because I don't know anything about banking. I just want them 20 minutes waiting for somebody to do it. So I guess I'll have to start doing mobile deposits so I don't have to talk to anybody. But what you got to do, I tell you, always this problem and then go to work, get rid of it. Get rid of your problems, whatever they are. You know what they are. make them go away, and don't keep putting up with it because it takes the energy out of you, having those kind of things. So I'm going to be 80 in a year. I told people I'm in the ozone, the obituary zone, so I have to take care of myself. Not a good number. You look in the paper, those people are not around very long. So that becomes a higher priority. Your priorities change as you get smarter.
Absolutely. Lee, so touching kind of back on what we were discussing before, as far as like Mariott and Hilton and the standards that they handle. One of the things that kind of came to mind when we were discussing dealing with you specifically being a resorts guy for Walt Disney is that, with Hilton and Marriott, there's a very high regard and people expect pretty high standards out of them. But with
Yeah.
Disney, people expect essentially perfection. I mean,
Yeah.
there's very little leeway. And I think a lot of it has to do with that people save up for this for years and so on. And, we can have a whole discussion about that. But how do you, yeah, obviously you would understand that being the position you're in, but how do you communicate that to your like your cast members that work in the resorts about how important their
Yeah.
role is within this? And what do you do to like, what did you do in your tenure to like maintain that? To keep as close
Yeah.
to perfection as possible.
I think we have a good process for that at Disney. I mean, you go all day to an 8-hour traditions day. The first day with the company, you learn about pixie dust, you learn about people getting, this is the most important vacation for most families. Most of our people come to visit us are not on expense account. They're paying out of their pocket. This is not Marriott or Hilton where most of people are business. And we drive that into them, how the responsibility they have to do this. And we've already selected the best people we could find. And then we put them through rigorous knowledge about why we're different. Where there was a guy named Walt Disney. Here's what he thought. Here's what he did. Here's what we do. And then we make sure the training and we hold them accountable. I used to say, you don't have to be happy to work at Disney. You got to act happy for 8 hours because we all have bad days. But when you're in the show, you've got to put on your show. And so we make this very clear that we're in the show. You had an argument with your wife this morning. Fine. You can call her on your break and yell at her. But when you go out on stage, you perform. And our managers are out and about. They're observing what's going on and they're directing the show. And it's like live. You got to be out there in the business. And we had a policy at Disney. The managers had to be 80% of the day out in the business, 20% in the office doing their paperwork and stuff. And you got to be out there helping them and jumping behind the cash register and taking care of guest problems and observing performance and training people and correcting them. And it's just part of how we do it. Our people are, and I'm working with some hotel chains right now. And the big administrators, nobody wants to leave the office because it's air conditioned. And when you go out in the business, there are problems. So I'll just stay in the office. No, we got to get this theory that the general manager and the leaders and the managers of the business can make a huge difference by being out there with their people and jumping in and helping them. And all of a sudden, the whole environment is the people who work for this. When they have a problem, somebody jumps in and helps them, and your day goes better. And so you go home, you want to work there. We just keep emphasizing over and over and over that everything matters. I mean, that's what we talk about. One piece of paper on the floor matters. Pick it up. No hair in the sink when you check into a hotel. Everything's got to be. And if you want to be excellent, everything matters. If you want to be average, you can let a lot of that stuff go. So it's really a mindset of that you like to clean your room. How many times did she tell you to be careful when you went out? How many times did she tell you to change your shirt? I mean, we're like mothers. We just drive you crazy till you become a mother. And it becomes replicated, and the managers have to be good role models too. So they're setting the example. They're picking up paper, they're helping, they're serving customers, they're and all of a sudden we're all in this together. I guess that's the environment and culture we want. We're all in this together. I happen to have the title manager, but I'm in here just to do the same thing you are, is to make sure the guests have a great time. And that's our focus. That's what we focus on. And for me to take the hassles out of your job, get you the resources you need, the training you need, the staffing. My job is to take the hassles away from the customer and the employee, so everybody is happy. Because there's plenty of ways to, when website doesn't work, guests don't like that, or whatever, a bus doesn't show up and they're late an hour to the park. Everything matters, and we charge a lot. I mean, the prices are outrageous, but people say it's worth it. So I hope they keep saying that, and we'll see with Bob Iger how he gets all that under control. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lee, let's talk a little bit about, again, go back to your background. You start out in hotels, then you move to the resort side with Disney, and then onto the theme park side. How did the skills and the experience you had from the resort and hotel side, how did that translate into the operations of a theme park?
Yeah, well, I knew nothing about theme parks. In fact, I was put in charge of theme parks, and I'd never been in a theme park. And the reason I told the guys, well, some people were not happy about that had been there 30 years. They thought they should have gotten it done. I said, I'm not here to run the parks. I'm here to make sure we have the right people, that I give you the right support, that I get you the right staffing, that I help you. And I learned some, but I couldn't run any of those attractions. All those policies about the line, all the technical stuff was not something I focused on. I focused on making sure we were hiring the right people. I was helping them get the right people. I was making sure I supported great training programs for everybody. And I made sure I supported that we're going to have a culture where we treat people right. I don't care what their job is. And that's became my job. I could go and work for a car company. That's just the same thing. I wouldn't know anything about it. I wouldn't know how to open the hood, but I would make sure. That's how you got to think about leadership. Is you're the support person. I'm there to remove the obstacles, to remove the hassles, to use my authority to get them what they need, to go fight with the president about more staffing, or fight with somebody about more resources or spending money on something. But I wasn't a technical expert in really anything except the food business and the hotel business. But I think we got to quit thinking, because when you hire highly technical people to lead, you often are not happy because they're abusive and they are controlling and they think they know everything. And we need to get the best out of the people we hired, and they're usually experts. They know more than you'll ever know in your whole life because they've done it. And so that's how I think about it. That's how I think about it. I think I could go run a grocery store. I wouldn't know anything about it, but I'd make sure I had the right people. We set the standards. There's got to be 12 cans of baked beans on the shelf, and the cashier's got to say, like at Publix, did you find everything you were looking for? Is there anything we can do? Just a few things like that, which we do at Disney. We don't point to where the restaurant is. We show you. We take you there. The little things and these are cumulative. If you go through this for a week at Disney, you go, wow, man, every time we had an encounter, it was amazing. That's why when the cast member doesn't do it well, the guests go into shock. They can't believe somebody was rude. And there's some of that right now that they're working through, because kind of this last administration kind of annoyed everybody. So they're trying to get back on track with, and they will. Bob Iger will be a good example to get back on track of doing the most important thing, which is take care of the guests and get the hassle. So every company has these ups and downs. We go too far one way, then we go too far the other way. We have too many people, then we don't have enough, and then we cut prices, and then we raise prices. I mean, it's like every organization. We're trying to stay on that fine line in the middle, and we're never on it. We're always too far one way or the other, and that's what leadership and management is about, getting us back closer to the line of perfection. You just do the best you can.
Lee, talking about your time.
Once you know what great looks like, then you know.
Yeah. So talking about your time at Disney.
Time where?
Okay. So talking about your time at Disney, tell us about one of the biggest challenges that you faced and how you were able to overcome it.
Well, the biggest, I would say, looking back, was 9/11. That morning when we lost 35% of our business, canceled that day after the planes hit. And we had to take $400 million out of our cost base. That was to really stay even halfway profitable. And I was the head of the group. We went in a room for 7 days, 8 days, for 3 weeks, 7 days a week. And I backed off and I let the two people report to me kind of take over, because one was an industrial engineer and one had deeper business experience than I did. And I sat behind them and I let them lead. And it didn't bother me at all. And I told people that. I said, Carl and Aaron, they know that they have better thinking on how to do this because of their education, their experience. And we were going to save the 400 million and not lay off anybody. That was hard. I mean, I'm telling you, it was hard. And so that was the hardest thing you always have in business, is when you got to lay somebody off or terminate them. Even if they didn't perform, because you're affecting their family. Nobody wants to do that. We all don't like to do it. I hated it. The thing I hated the most was having to deal with non-performance and getting rid of somebody. But so that was that kind of stuff. Or when a recession where you have the same thing. It's like 9/11, no planes, but business goes down the tubes and you're in a recession. Right now it's tough over there. Inflation and can't find people. Turnover is really tough coming and going because people don't stay long enough to love it. It's just a job at first. It becomes really special after you've been there a while. You see the opportunities for the future. But when you first come in, it's, you're serving hamburgers. Hey, I can serve hamburgers down the street near my house. So leadership has a lot to do to get those people feeling good about being there and taking care. It's like bonding with a baby. You got to do it right away and stay close to them so they don't leave. So they feel like they're going to have a good future here, a good career. They're going to get trained. They're going to get development. And they're going to have their life's going to get better if they stay at Disney long term. So it's complicated and it's hard. And it's kind of like raising kids, it takes a long time. And you worry and you have ups and downs. And you go, God. And then one day they turn out to be great people and you go, wow. Yeah. And somebody said, Lee, you have such a great son, or you have great grandkids. I said, you don't know what I went through. Were they great every day? No. But you do your best. It turns out. It's how it turns out, not the ups and downs in between. It's how it turns out. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, well, Lee, let's talk about technology. You were around during your tenure with the Walt, with Disney and Walt Disney World when they introduced the Magic Bands, revolutionary at the time. But now you have, these apps. You have Genie Plus. You have digital signage. What are your thoughts on that? And where do you see the integration of technology into the park experience?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Magic Bands and all that happened after I left. They were working on it at the time when I retired. But technology is coming, and people are either going to use it for the right thing or the bad thing. A lot of people are using it just to cut labor and to make the guests do everything, and it's not very good, and they don't make sure it works right. But it's going to come, and we just have to keep that balance of when a guest needs to talk to a person, that they can do that, or when they're having trouble with the technology, there's somebody nearby that can help them with it. Because a lot of people are paralyzed with technology. They get into they don't know what to do next because it doesn't work. The bandwidth is not right or something. So it's a balance. It's always been, I'm probably how Henry Ford felt. How do we get people to feel good about the car and give up the horse? It's always that problem. And you got to think about it. You got a lot of constituents. You got people 60, 70, 80 years old coming to the parks, and you got kids that are 2, 3, 4, 5, and the kids that are 12, 13, 14, they can use technology like with their eyes closed. And then mom and dad are still struggling with it. And so it's a balance. It's just if the guests like it, it's good. If you're getting too many complaints and they're not happy with it, you've got to figure out how to get that balance back in. So it may be technology and having people available. And, we're just trying to wean labor away. We have a call center with 2,000 operators in it. We'd like to have a call center with nobody in it. we'd like for the guests to go online and do everything, but that's not possible yet because it just doesn't work yet well enough, and it's not reliable enough. And when we think technology is not that old, really, when you think about it. Somebody reminded me today, the technology person from Disney I work, she said, Lee, you were the first one to have a BlackBerry. Oh my God, I forgot all about BlackBerry. I mean, can you imagine? And before that, we had a beeper with an earphone. People would beep us if they were. I mean, in my lifetime, it's so for a lot of. And then I got grandkids. They're fine. So we got to just keep balance. It's got to be whatever it is. I got to not be frustrated with doing business with you. And we got to keep surveying guests, keep an eye on that, and have alternatives till people get there. And another 10, 15 years, we'll all be dead, and all the young people will know how to do it. There won't be any problem. But
right.
It's like people like me. I still have to get a computer guy to help me with certain things I still don't know how to do. And my grandkids, they can do it in a snap. And I'm going like, how do you do this? How do you get this? How do you find that? So, yeah, balance. My wife has a Lexus. We don't know how to use half the stuff in the car. I swear to God, we can barely get the radio on. I mean, it's like we pay all this extra for all this stuff. We don't even use it because we don't know how. I can barely get my garage door opener synchronized with the car. It's like crazy.
Yeah. Hey, Lee, let me ask you this.
We're going through some time. Technology is roaring ahead and faster than a lot of us can adapt.
Absolutely.
The will be successful are the ones who adapt. You got to adapt. That's what the world's changing faster than ever now. Yeah. You'll be one day, not too long, you'll be going to London in 2 hours.
Those Concorde jets, right?
And there'll be a lot of people who don't like that idea. They're going up in orbit. No. Yeah. So, it's always a balance, and it's always listening to your customers and listening to your employees. Your employees and customers know everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. They either like it or they don't like it. And if you get a good relationship, they'll tell you. And then you can make adjustments. And then as it gets better, you can make other adjustments. And eventually, you can play over to that, because if now everybody knows what to do. Anything we implement, nobody knows what they're doing. Yeah. Especially with Disney, 52 million visitors a year, 1 million people every week, and they're international language issues. I mean, just think of the number of people come here and don't speak English, and they have those devices. And pretty tough.
Lee, you worked with all the Disney resorts, and I got to ask, like, there's so many of them. I can't even send a number off the top of my head as to how many Disney resorts there are, but which one is your favorite after all is said and done?
Today, Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Oh, good choice.
Animal Kingdom Lodge, I would say, because my grandkids were little when it opened. We went there, and it was just magical. They would come running in and tell us their animals are out outside the room. And it's a sweet place. It's very, very exotic. I really liked it a lot. That and Wilderness Lodge. I think those two would probably be my favorite. They just had that really good feeling that we liked. So yeah, they were great. Grand Floridian's great hotel. I don't like high luxury. I'm not the guy that wants somebody, picking up after me. I'm a Hampton Inn guy.
You're a Hampton Inn guy.
Hampton Inn, where parking's free, internet's free, breakfast is free, and there's no check-in line.
I like it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Lee, we appreciate your time tonight. We enjoyed the conversation, a lot of great insights there on leadership and culture and other things. One more time, let everybody know where they can find your books, where they can find your podcast.
Yeah, just go to LeeCockerell.com, and everything, I put it in one place because I'm getting so old, I don't want to forget where it is. So I put everything that's on my website. Some is free, some stuff you can buy, other stuff is, the podcast is free. There's 400 episodes there. They're only 15 minutes each. I guarantee if you start listening to them, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
Because I said I know more than everybody else because I'm old.
Well, I can attest to the podcast. In preparation
When
for this
you're old, you
episode,
know
I
more.
listened to
Yes.
several episodes, and a lot of them are really interesting and really inspiring, and really a lot of times it's kind of like I wish my leader would have known that sort of thing. So Lee, once again, really an honor to have you on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It was fun to see you at the IAPA show. So hang in there, be nice to people, tell your wife you love her, and life should turn out pretty good.
Awesome. Well, Lee Cockerell, everybody,
right.
at leecockerell.com for his podcast, as well as his several books about leadership, business, retaining employees. Just read his books. You need to hear what this guy has to say, even more than we heard tonight. So everyone, thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at attractions_GRP. Search for us on YouTube and subscribe. Just search for the Attractions Group podcast and search for us on your favorite podcast apps. Good night, everybody.